Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter for 17th of July, halfway through the month. I want to welcome everybody today. We are going to be continuing discussing something that we all do that we need to have a whole lot more awareness of. All right, so that A, we can see it coming, and B, we can start getting ourselves prepared for the ways that we need to make this very human behavior work for us more. Not perfectly, but a whole lot more. And make it a conscious thing that you recognize in yourself, the way you specifically respond to anything that you have to continue to do regularly. So I want to give full credit to Brianna Weist, who wrote The Mountain Is You. I'm using the backdrop of her material, her information in this book. Boy, I don't think I very rarely say get a book. All right. But you know, the procrastination book by Jane Burka and Lenora Ewan, and of course, Conquer the Clutter. Let us not forget Conquer the Clutter in audiobook format because it comes with the Tools and Resources website. With the purchase of the audiobook version, you get free access to this website that is specifically for the tools and resources in Conquer the Clutter. And it's interactive, that website, and all of the material is interactive and it's tabulatable. So you can keep going back to it to gauge your progress, or when you feel like maybe you're not quite on top of it, any relapse that you might be experiencing. Okay, so I don't mean to pitch the book, just I don't know if I've said that before. This is another little book you might think about getting. All right, it's got, so far I'm about halfway through it, and I don't think I've found one concept that she is presenting that I don't agree with thoroughly. And I find it has a general appropriateness for hoarding, clutter, perfectionism, ADD, ADHD, all of the comorbidities, except those where cognitive decline or impairment is a factor. If you are still cognitively intact, there are, let's just have a look here. There are, last page, 241 pages of wisdom. All right. Okay. So enough said about Brianna and her fabulous book. We're going to talk about something we all do, no matter how smart you are, no matter how whatever you are. All right. We habituate. And the reason we habituate is because it's kind of like a shortcut that we use for behaviors that we're going to repeat. Unfortunately, it also affects behaviors that we don't really intend to repeat. And so the purpose it then becomes to act in a way, ostensibly, our intent is that will move us forward. Is there anybody here who has an intention to move backwards? All right. Enough said about that. And consequently, it's also about the actions that we repeat and will repeat that become choices. Now, the first few times we do it, we probably might be reacting. All right. But then once we develop a habit, a good habit or a bad habit, all right, productive or unproductive, starts to become a choice. All right. Now, when we choose and habituate actions and choices that work for us, move us forward along our path, we call them skills, right? But when we habituate choices that hold us back in our life, we call those choices self-sabotage. Sometimes we just don't know that this time the 2 and 2 that seems obvious to us, 2 plus 2, we count on it being 4, but it turns out to be a 5, 6, 7. All right. So sometimes when we habituate, it happens by accident. We just didn't have enough information and we repeated the choice. Now, it happens by accident, but it's happening by accident for reasons. All right. And reasons that I really want you to look deeply inside yourself about. Because at that point, the reasons are unknown to us. Right? We know something's just not jiving. We're not getting the result that we thought we would. But sometimes we just get used to making choices that result in leading us to live the way we do, not necessarily the way we intended. And when we do that and we get into a groove, all right, the strongest probability is that we're going to stop being present. We're going to stop being present fully in our environment, seeing what the options are, caring what the options are, or even present in that goal we have to get somewhere, all right, to do something, to accomplish something. And that could be your 15 minutes a day of decluttering. Or it could be something far more serious to the path of your life. But we stop being present. And when we stop being present, we can't just stop acting. You know that. We've talked about how the brain functions enough to know we can't just stop something. We always replace it with something. There is no void in our life, right? We stop being present and we stop focusing at the same time on having a vision for our life. That's what overwhelmed is. That's what frustrated is. That's what getting derailed is. All right. Stop having that focus we need for our life that we intended to have. And we also stop actively realizing that there might be other choices that we could make as well. And we do that because we don't know how to make. we are not energized. We are not present. We are not engaged. All right. And we don't know how to make the better choices work for us. All right. Those ones that are focused to influence us to make the choices, to leave enough time and space for the success we're seeking. Now, while I'm talking about this, I don't want it to be an abstract. I want you to think about one thing that is really important to you, all right, that you want to accomplish. Now, it might be that thing that when you walk by, you go, oh, yeah, I got to jump. Oh, yeah, I thought I was going to do that. Okay. All right. You know that thing that keeps nagging at you? And you want it done. You intend to do it. I want you to think of that kind of activity that's personal to you so that this isn't just me yammering on. It actually activates in you an image of something that is meaningful to you, that you want success at. So when we habituate things that are not productive, we disengage, we stop being as present as we need to be or intended to be. Quite often, that distraction causes us not to leave the time and the space in our day-to-day life for the success at that thing we're seeking success with. Or when you do this often enough, when we do this often enough, and nobody's exempt here. I'm not exempt, you're not exempt. Okay, this happens in life. And sometimes it happens without us actually realizing we've just gone into neutral. All right. So at a minimum, all right, we stop being in touch with the support that anything else is actually possible. How many people here have been overwhelmed? That's what was happening. That's what was happening. Now that you are a little more aware of it, after you watch this video a few times and you commit this material more to mind, I want you to really commit to yourself that you will catch yourself a whole lot sooner in that process, because it's not something that will go away and never happen again. It's not a magical cure. All right. This is simply excellent information that we need to keep a firmer hold on. It needs to be in our toolkit that we can go to when life starts to overwhelm us. All right. How many times have you settled for only what you were handed in a life circumstance? All right. Often we do that because we don't know or remember that we can actually, in that moment, make a different choice. And the different choice is that we ask more. We ask for more. We ask for a little more of ourselves, and we ask for a little more than the limited options that we're looking at because we're overwhelmed or we're not really fully engaged. We're there, but how present are you? All right, how present are you? Okay, sometimes that becomes a habit, and I've talked to many of you about this, and I know this to be true for many people, right? Sometimes we habituate that, it wasn't there. I just used what was present. I didn't look for any other options. Sometimes we do that often enough that we even lose track of the fact that we have a right to ask for more. All right. We have a right, if we're prepared to do the work, to expect that we can make increasing progress toward enough success that we're satisfied. All right. Have you ever found yourself just living on autopilot? You get up, you got the routine of the day, you just kind of get moved through your day like a little autopilot machine. Okay. And you stay on autopilot long enough that you begin to think and convince yourself, you know what? I'm dreaming in Technicolor here. It's too late to change. Anybody here ever said that to themselves? Or even if you haven't said it, you thought it. What am I doing? It's too late. I'm kidding myself. And too late to change. And, you know, choose another way. That results when you do that to yourself, because that's never true. There are probably 6 good options out there, but you need to be present. All right? You need to be present. You need to be engaged. You need to have saved enough energy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And when I say spiritually, I'm not talking about any particular religion. I'm talking about your life force, your spirit, your energy. Okay? You need to have saved enough that you can actually engage and realize there is more than one result here. All right. If you Don't look for the other options that are there with a little bit of energy. What will happen is it will result in us no longer having a choice. We really will convince ourselves that we have a very limited choice. And you know what? Most of the time, though, it's not accidental that we opt for habits and behaviors. It's not accidental. Remember what I told you about the brain. The brain is not the smartest part of our body. All right. The brain is just a computer, really, for all intents and purposes. And whatever you habituate, it's going to go looking for you again because that is your most frequent choice. It is there to make you happy. And it's convinced that despite the evidence to the contrary, all right, it doesn't have feelings really. It is going to give you the thing that you choose most. Beware, buyer beware. Okay. It is not going to go looking for creative things. You need to make that happen. You need to be engaged. And it's not accidental that we opt for habits and behaviors. We feel that we can't stop engaging in. Our, drive me by a Dairy Queen on a hot day when all hell is broken loose. All right. I'll tell you, I have to really put my foot to the metal, right? Pedal to the metal to get past that Dairy Queen because ice cream is the solution for everything in life that isn't working. Now, what is your vulnerability? What is your go-to? All right. Okay. It's not accidental that we opt for the habits and behaviors we can't stop engaging in or limiting. They may be, all right. This is an important message alert. It is not the only thing. We allow ourselves, we are deliberately designed by our subconscious, every single one of us, deliberately designed by our subconscious to meet an unfilled need. These are not choices and options when we choose them. They are what our subconscious is telling us. This is your best chance for happiness. Honey, opt for the habit. It's a sure thing. At least you know pretty much what the outcome's going to be, and it's good, barely good enough. All right. But that's not true. That habit we're choosing, our subconscious believes, wants us to believe, and it's true. What we're really trying to do is meet an unfulfilled need that we currently have. So when I'm pedal to the metal past Dairy Queen on a really bad day, all right, I have an unmet need currently, and it isn't for ice cream. It's probably for comfort. It's probably for reassurance. It's probably for, that part of your brain that they design that sweet spot for with food. All right. That needs a little bit, that needs a hug, or that needs something, and we all have it. So when we make those choices, we are doing it because we believe it's our best chance. Only because we've habituated. All right? Only because we've habituated to get enough of that unfulfilled need we currently have now. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a concept that isn't necessarily in, so far anyway, the mountain is you. And that is what I do now. And that is, I give myself the choice. I can choose that. But along with that becomes a consequence. Or what other choices do I have? Break the speed limit and get past Dairy Queen. All right. And what is the consequence of that? Now, tomorrow or later on today, when I go to bed, which am I going to be really happy I chose that consequence? Because everything we have is everything we do is a consequence. So I just make myself delay and say, you know what? I have a need right now. All right. And it's screaming at me. All right. And is this actually going to meet that need? Yeah, it will perfectly for about 10 minutes. What is the consequence I want to pay? And how much does that help with the need I have? All right. How much does that help? And you know what? When I give myself that 10-second pitch to myself, it's a whole lot easier to choose something that is actually going to be one paving stone further along on the path to the goal I have, to the need I have. That is a goal because that goal meets a need. It just seems a little far off in the distance. And I'm going to have to do some work to get there. I'm not ever going to get there if I choose the immediate need that I have. I'm never going to get there. And how's that going to feel? And I deserve better. All right. Not because I'm any better than anybody else or whatever, just because I want that outcome. So the other thing that it can also, that habituated choice, the other thing that it can also do, all right, is it's designed as well, not just about the need, but about a displaced emotion. All right. When you don't recognize the emotions that come upon you in important circumstances, all right, you don't take the second to name it so that you can identify it. What is that displaced emotion that is going to influence you to opt for a habituated choice that has never served you well in the past, and quite often that you've regretted? What is that displaced emotion? And it will be different maybe for each choice. That's okay. The other thing too, so there are three: need, displaced emotion, unmet need. Displaced emotion, I've got that emotion and I've shoved it off to the side. It's not convenient. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to experience that emotion. All right. Or it can also be a desire, like a desire that isn't just sort of like an everyday desire. It's like a really deep desire. All right. But we're neglecting it. We're neglecting, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Yeah. I'm too busy. I'm too whatever. What are you two of that you're not getting to the desire, that you live in an environment that soothes you, doesn't nag at you, doesn't make you feel like there are people over, isolates you, wears you out, overwhelms you? Okay, what desire are you neglecting? And if it's not about clutter, what is it about? What is it about? What is that neglected desire you currently have? Now, Brianna Weist reminds us that, and this is all her work in this point, overcoming self-sabotage. This is a little jewel, I think. And no, I've never heard it said better. Overcoming what we call self-sabotage is not really about trying to figure out how to override our impulses. I tried overriding our impulses and I went through the drive-through at Dairy Queen many times. All right. So I'm just making that as kind of like a not serious thing, but it's true. It's an evidence. Okay. So overcoming self-sabotage is not about trying to figure out how to override our impulses. It is first and foremost determining why those impulses exist in the first place. The impulse isn't the enemy. The impulse is the message to yourself. You're on the wrong track. You're looking in the wrong place. You're opting for the wrong solution. It's never going to get you there. Self-sabotage is mostly, almost always, it's kind of a nasty name, isn't it? Is misunderstood. Okay. And a lot of the books you read are about thinking that it's a way to be subconsciously punishing yourself, that somehow you're punishing yourself, or you are demeaning yourself according to your current level of self-esteem. Self-sabotage, I've heard people describe it as evidence that they are. No, it isn't evidence of anything except that you're not meeting your needs, and you may not be well enough informed about what your actual needs are, what the real deal is here. All right. Or that you are intentionally hurting yourself. I don't believe we ever intentionally hurt ourselves. I believe that our mind, our body, and our energy are always working to heal us. We just don't listen to it. And perhaps repeating a pattern, okay, on the surface anyway, seems to be potentially true because we experience that defeat. We experience that disappointment, that, I've done it again. How did I get here? All right. I didn't like it the last 6 times I did this. What am I doing? And what does that do for your self-confidence and your self-esteem? Don't do it. Smarten up. Okay. You deserve it. So here's what it looks like. These were Brianna's examples. I think they're really simple and really easy to really get the message. And it is, self-sabotage looks like committing to a healthier diet. All right. And then finding yourself driving through the drive-through at fill in the blank hours later. Huh? You had a goal, you had a desire, you had a plan, you had an impulse. You habituated your response to it, and there you are. All right. What is your equivalent to the drive-through about the goal that you want to set for yourself? Let's make this about more than the drive-through. For you, what is your equivalent? It's identifying a goal, conceiving how it can be a positive idea. Okay, if it's a goal, most people don't set goals to undermine themselves. All right, that's where they end up because they habituated something that was a slippery slope and they ended up at the bottom of the hill, not the top. So conceiving of how is that a positive? And one of the ways that, just as an example, I do is I say to myself, after you have this thing that in the moment is going to be wonderful, what's the consequence, and what consequence do you want to pay? Because you're going to pay a consequence any way you look at it. All right, what consequence? And that consequence, what is the long-term feeling that you're going to walk away from that choice with? Do you need, is the unmet need to really go, did it again, or didn't do it again? Or is it, okay, I think I'm taking the reins on this horse I call my life. And I think I've got a better hold on the reins right now, anyway. And this is proof that I can do it. This is evidence that I can do it. And so I'm proud of myself. All right. Not gloriously proud of myself. It's not these big moments in life. Oh, okay. And it's not even an aha moment. It's just a quiet little, good, I did it. And I'm going to remind myself, I can get up and do that 15 minutes. I am never going to want to drive past a Dairy Queen. Okay, that is just not in my life history, probably, but I can do it because Dairy Queen is not the answer for what I'm actually seeking. It's a substitute, it's a replacement, and it's not a good one. And I would rather walk away at the end of the day and wake up the next morning and go, we did it. We did it. We stayed on our track. Okay. So even taking the time and spending the energy to identify that goal you have, how is it positive? And then allowing yourself not to get distracted by putting it out of your mind, getting distracted and working on something else. All right. Now, people with ADHD have a steeper incline on that hill. But when you approach the hill, you know that. You know that's true. So what do you need in your armory of tools and resources? What do you need in order to face that steep hill? All right. You don't need distraction, and you don't need to criticize yourself later when you realize you forgot about it and you haven't really made the progress you intended to. So allowing yourself to be distracted sometimes can be you took another path, but it can also be sometimes to allowing an old feeling that is not a good choice, like having disruptive and worrying thoughts and allowing them to kind of take hold. All right. And confuse you and paralyze you. Now, I shared with you that our podcast last week was canceled because I was bringing my sister, who has advanced Alzheimer's, from Toronto to Ottawa. All right. And trying to set her up with my niece in a new living situation that would never have been anything in her 81 years she would have conceived of. Nobody would have. All right. So this was not a match made in heaven. And I have to tell you, seeing her behaviors and realizing what the consequences could be for her not staying in this nice place and what that would mean for the next choice, that has given me more than one bad night. All right. So I'm with you on these confusing and paralyzing feelings and thoughts and worrying. And you know what? We handle today. That's what I tell myself. All you have to do is handle today. You can't dictate tomorrow. There is no point in worrying about it. All right. Because it's like having your hand on a steering wheel and we were in Toronto, but I have my hands on the steering wheel and I'm worrying about Ottawa. Well, what good does that do? All right, really, just stay in the moment, keep yourself actively present. So if you have to unload something, you have to unload it, right? What do you need to unload to move forward? What do you need to unload right now in your mind, a habit you have, pattern of behavior you have that holds you back. Because today belongs to you. We can plan for tomorrow, but we cannot control it. We can influence it. All right. But all you have is today to make tomorrow a better version of what you want and need. So you better stay committed to yourself. You better love and respect and take care of yourself enough that you stay present today. Okay? So, in the face of important life changes or milestones, it's knowing you have so much, and this has sustained me, knowing I have so much to be grateful for, and to let the feelings of gratitude, this sounds so hokey, I know, all right, but it's not. Just, you know what, when that, oh my gosh, it could be, and, oh, her Alzheimer behaviors are not what you would call social. All right. They're not. All right. And so, oh, what can we do? Well, think of what you can do and put that resource in place, if at all possible, to support the path you want to be on. Right. Get a knowledgeable, experienced PSW to be with your sister around the clock. They know how to handle Alzheimer's much better than you do. I'm a social worker with a master's degree and more experience in years under my belt than I care to admit, but there is nothing as uninformed as an expert out of their field. All right. And so, what do you need? We need 2 PSWs, one for the day and one for the night, is what we need. We need to keep loving her and appreciating her for who she is inside this mind that has gone somewhere we can't get her back. Okay. What is your challenge? Never mind my challenge. I'm telling you my challenge because I want you to realize this is not a kumbaya moment. This is a fight for I have today. And what I do have today is I have gratitude. I have gratitude for so many things that make this a manageable struggle. Okay. A manageable struggle. And that eases the load, all right, of not giving into worry. Now, we often mistake and attribute these behaviors we have to a lack of awareness or intelligence or knowledge, or when we don't pull it off, when we find ourselves slipping, we don't lack anything. We don't lack anything. Okay. It isn't about your willpower. Okay. And anybody who says it is on a different trajectory. Willpower is about what you program a machine to do. All right. Or your personal capability. If you can imagine it, you can do it. That's not to say you can do it with the tools you have right now. All right. Or the things you're habituating that are using up your time and space and energy and self-respect and optimism and faith. All right. Self-sabotage is not a way to hurt ourselves. It's actually a way to protect ourselves. Our mind, our body, our energy is trying to support us and take care of us. So what is self-sabotage according to Brianna Weiss, who I have a great deal of respect for when she's talking about self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is when you have 2 conflicting desires. One of them is conscious. You're aware of it. All right, probably way too aware of it, actually. And the other is unconscious. And they're competing, they're fighting with one another. So You know how you want to move forward in your life, in your day, and yet you still, for some reason, feel like you feel stuck or you feel inadequate to overcome the challenge. The challenge may even be like amorphous. You can't kind of get a gauge on it. And when you have a big issue that is in a one moment, it's ongoing, right? This is not going anywhere. This is a marathon, people. Okay. And seemingly insurmountable. Certainly my sister's Alzheimer's feels, yep, a little stuck, big, huge. All right. I'm the only sister left to help take care of her. All right. Ongoing. We don't know how long this will last. And there are moments when it does feel insurmountable. Glory be. Who is this person? All right. And how do you approach? But this isn't just about me. I'm sharing this with you so that you can figure out what your barriers are that are popping up. What are your pop-ups that are getting in the way? Because those are the things you need to not habituate, especially when a solution seems simple and easy. All right. And yet so impossible to stick with. Have you ever faced a situation and then after you didn't handle it the way you would have wished, you went like, okay, how hard was that? And I didn't even do it. Have you ever done that? Okay. So when that happens, okay, we don't have a big problem. All right. What we have is a big attachment to something. The question is, what do you have this big attachment to? Because human nature being human nature, and we're pretty much all basically the same. We've got variations on a theme, but human nature is human nature. We basically do whatever we want. We basically do whatever we want to do. And there are very few exceptions, except in instances where we or the other who is part of this dynamic experience cognitive impairment. If you're cognitively intact, you're pretty much doing what you want to do. All right. Regardless. And when you habituate those behaviors that aren't getting you where you need to get, with you well known potential consequences. Human nature is self serving. As people, we do whatever we feel compelled to do the most, regardless of who or what it affects, positively or negatively. That's something we have to come to terms with. It wasn't an accident. It might not have been fully intentional either, but it's what basically at a subconscious level you wanted. Okay. If you are keeping something in your life, there has to be a reason you want it there. There has to be. The only question is why we can't figure out and motivate ourselves enough to create a new idea. It is possible. How did you get that idea? You weren't born with it. It just seems the most obvious, the easiest. Okay. And that new idea, when you try them out, might facilitate the goals you have and become something that is productively habituatable. Better to habituate something that works for you than to habituate something that is a pop-up that gets in your way. Okay. And that's so that you can become closer to what you imagine. All right. Now, perhaps, all right, not realizing that we possibly Maybe what's getting in the way is possibly we have a subconscious belief that being successful and reaching our goal has a negative. Or perhaps we actually don't want to be whatever we are aiming for. We have a goal, but maybe that goal isn't actually the goal. All right. Maybe we actually don't want to be whatever we imagine. Are we playing out somebody else's script? Are we achieving something else that now I know another funny little example I'm going to give you from my life is I was always taught when you get up, you make your bed. And I'm sorry for those people who do believe that. All right. But I made an adult decision. All right. And I think of my mother every time I do it. All right. And it's not rebellion. It's, I don't want to make my bed. I don't want to make my bed. And I'm a big girl. And so I don't make my bed. But what I do is, for me, my purpose is I want to air that bed out. I want to air the bed out. So I pull the sheets back. The bed is never made. The sheets are pulled back, sometimes tidily and sometimes not, depending on how I'm feeling. And you know what? I'm a big girl and I'll make my choices. Sorry, Mom. All right. Sorry, Mom. Okay. And I even get out, and sometimes I even get my allowance. Okay. What do you want? And are you playing out your script or are you playing out somebody else's script? Is that the problem? Is the goal something you were taught you should want? You don't really want that. Well, you do want it, but you don't want that. You want some version of it that is more you. Fine tune your goals. All right. Not achieving the goal sometimes supports us to feel secure and taken care of. I'm taking care of myself. And when I get in that bed at night and I pull the sheets back up, all right, I know that bed is like aired out. Who made aired out a goal? You know what? It's what, thank you. Thank you, Mindy. Yeah, no, like, you know what? That, I don't even ask myself why that is important to me, but it's important to me. So, okay, it shall remain a mystery, but it shall remain a met goal. What do you need to fine tune? Okay, what do you need to feel secure and taken care of according to you, not the script? Maybe our real desire is to be recognized for something else. Okay. Is there some kind of impediment that we don't dare go after it because it feels too something, too unlikely, unreachable? Okay. Not a great chance of actually happening. Well, if you don't try, it's never going to happen. And just remind yourself, the fallback choice when you don't go for your unique need, the fallback choice is never going to motivate you. That might explain a lot of the habituation of other things and being off track. Okay. Some people say that they want to be successful, an example, at any cost, right? And yet, do they? Because they're not logging the hours to make that happen. Okay. It takes work to get there. And sometimes it's work with yourself. What is it I really want? And sometimes we can only identify that one step at a time. Is this feeling closer to it? Is that feeling closer to it? Am I still on track? Okay. Perhaps it's because we understand at some level that being successful doesn't really make us happy. all right, or liked. If you're off track and you're going for a universal goal, who wouldn't try hard to be successful? Yeah, but about what? All right, know that. Maybe you're acknowledging the fact that the opposite actually tends to be true, because by being whatever it is that you thought was the goal, but it's not actually your legitimate goal, there are some negatives to it. Success, all right, can expose us to jealousy and scrutiny. Now, sometimes we do that to ourselves, people. How many people here fight with perfectionism? That is the internal struggle of the successful goal. All right? But we are dissing ourselves about the jealousy of the indeterminateness of perfection, of that achievement, all the work and the scrutiny. It's never good enough. Have you ever noticed the moment it was perfect, 10 minutes later, it's not perfect? All right. Successful people aren't necessarily loved in the way we imagine they are. So when you set perfectionistic standards for yourself, you're going to be in the choir critiquing it, because that's why you aimed for perfect. All right. It's not a sustainable goal. Are you your own critic? Are you trying to live with two voices at the same time? The one that sets the goal and supports you moving forward, and the one that critiques the bejeebers out of you and undermines you. Watch the voices on the committee. For those of you who don't know about the committee, this community developed a concept of tape in our head being a community, being a committee, and members around that table. And there's always the critic, there's always the know-it-all, there's always the Pollyanna, there's always the whatever, too busy. And some of those voices are familiar, and we carry them with us. Make sure you're listening to your own voice. Make sure you're listening to your own voice. Whether you think you're right, whether you think you are capable or not, whatever your self-esteem is on that particular day, self-confidence, you listen to your own voice. And you're going to know it. You're not going to quite ring true. There's going to be a little in it. All right. And you think, I don't know about that. And that way, at least you are loving yourself in the way you imagined you would be. Because nobody knows you better than you. Now, we do have to live in a society. We do have to live with others. There is compromise, but compromise is not capitulation. Okay? Don't be a critic to yourself, to undermine yourself, to reduce yourself. Okay? That is never going to move you forward. And on the days when you don't pull it off, take a deep breath. The sun will come up tomorrow. All right? And tomorrow's a new day. Now, don't always wait for the new day, okay? Because that means you're stuck in yesterday. So there's a balance there, right? Okay. Perhaps instead of being successful, what we really want is to be accepted and first and loved and appreciated. All right. But we have to then accept, love, and appreciate ourselves for the parts of ourselves that make up the whole. All right. And allow ourselves to be imperfect. You don't necessarily, it might be harder when you're starting to look at the imperfect and love and accept that. If you're just starting out on this journey, I would suggest you look at the things that you are proud of about yourself, even the things that are neutral, and be appreciative you have those characteristics, and love and accept and value those, appreciate those. Right? Okay. Let me just move down. Yeah. Okay. So I want to use this, and we'll close on this. So sometimes we can't figure out why we keep choosing the wrong relationships. Now, this can be with other people, but I want us today to start with a relationship with ourselves. Okay? And so we repeat patterns in that relationship with ourselves that involve at times rejection. All right. And we repeat certain dynamics. And then they're not satisfying. All right. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself where you learned that? Because you were not born with that concept of rejection or refusal or not being good enough, or you weren't born with that. Where did you learn that? Okay. And the answer often is we learned it when we were young, when we were malleable, when we were vulnerable. And we look to others for the signal of what do we do? How do we survive? How do we get loved? Right? And one of the things in youth, particularly young, we associate love, all right, with whatever our experience was, because it's quite unusual to come out of youth and to only have a negative bias, right? We will tell ourselves in the worst of circumstances, and heaven knows there's enough literature that supports this, they did the best they could with what they had. Okay. And that may be true, but there's another side to it too. And what they did left you with a gaping need. Left you with a gaping need. All right. You're not looking for somebody to blame, but you're also not going to Pollyanna the fact that you have this wound that you need to heal. All right. And that wound can become beyond a wound, it can become an injury that you need to watch that it doesn't. That's not the part of yourself that's showing up, the wounded part. All right. And where that wound or injury resulted in loss and or abandonment, all right, there is nothing more frightening to a child's survival than the experience of abandonment, because children understand, infants understand, children understand. My survival depends on them. And if you need to do work on attachment to strengthen that secure bond in your own self, all right, that is work worth doing. And we will in the future do a whole series of podcasts on how to repair attachment when the experience has been to some degree abandonment. All right. And so when you are experiencing part of yourselves, and I'm going to give you an association here. Okay. You're going to be sick of the Dairy Queen story. All right. So I'm going to make this point, and then I want to give you the example. Okay. We might repeat behaviors that give us an attempt at getting to the right place, to the right experience. All right. We might repeat those. Okay. So now that I've told you this is not a sympathy thing, but you all know that 3 years ago, my younger sister died suddenly. Okay. My oldest brother's already gone. I have one other brother in California who is 82, going on 83. And I have my sister who's 81, who is not really with us. I grew up in a big, boisterous Irish family. Okay. The cousins were like brothers and sisters. They were like everybody else. Okay. So it's pretty quiet. And so it's no surprise that Dairy Queen, okay, is a trigger. It's got nothing to do with poor Dairy Queen. It's got to do that every time we all sat around and we were having, sort of a kumbaya moment, chat, solve a problem, okay, involve fudgesicles. I don't know whose history did not realize that this was the simple, straightforward solution, fast track to forgive everything. Okay. All right. And ice cream was like, you've been a good girl. Okay. Today for dinner, we're going to have ice cream instead of rice pudding. It was also a big family, right? 5 kids. Okay. Is it a surprise that when I need security, the first thing I can think, and I need love, and I'm losing people like hand over glove. Okay, that's part of life. You have to come to terms with that as an adult. But the child in me wants the comfort, wants the reassurance. Okay. And she wants the good girl's ice cream. All right. So the big girl, who is Elaine today, says, yeah, okay. Okay, but we're going to find something better than ice cream. Okay. Because the ice cream has kind of gone past its reliability. Now it's packing on your hips. Now you're adding weight. Now you're whatever. And the more you need it, the more you look for it, right? Okay. So, people, what do you need today in your deepest moments that bring you here, that is your goal? And what are you using? What are you using? And how is it working for you? And love yourself, respect yourself enough, no matter whether this is the worst day of your life, you are worthy of the success you're looking for. You have to work for it, though. It's not going to come to you. You need to go to it. But you need to be true to yourself. You need to listen to yourself. All right. And you need to believe in yourself. So one step forward today, closer to what it is, just one step. All right. And remind yourself tomorrow morning when you wake up, I did it. I did it. I didn't fall down the hill. I am one step further up the hill. Knew I could do it. Big pat on the back for everybody. One step, one thing, identify one thing. And then come on back next week and you tell me what it was. And I will continue on the habituation because it's really, really important. Okay, take care, everybody. I'll be thinking of you this week.
Can you do it?